Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1192, 1192, Thursday, July the 16th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in to all things TowerGate. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the last 24 hours worth of news regarding the Spygate or TowerGate or Russiagate, whatever you want to call it. The spying on the Trump campaign and the coup. That's what we're really talking about here. So, excuse me. So, let's go ahead and deal with the first thing that happened over the past 24 hours, and that's this series of tweets that came out from Papagalopoulos. George Papagalopoulos tweeting out yesterday that the Italian university, he's talking about Link campus, where I bumped into Joseph Misfit, has been raided by Italian authorities. Italy is with us. That is his tweet. The Italian university where I bumped into Joseph Misfit has been raided by Italian authorities. Italy is with us. Then, just above that tweet, you have a tweet from Papagalopoulos' wife, who of course is Italian, speaks Italian, and she shows a pic of an Italian newspaper, and she has the following tweet. Today, 14 people at the Link campus have been put under investigation in Italy, including Vincenzo Scotti. All roads lead to Rome. And of course, Vincenzo Scotti is the Italian official who actually introduced Papagalopoulos to Joseph Misfit there at Link campus. So I did some digging into this to see exactly what may be going on here, and as best I can tell, this doesn't have really anything to do with Spygate, Russiagate, the coup, Misfit, or any of that. Doesn't appear to have anything to do with that. Now, there could be, maybe it does, and this is just a reason that they used, but there's something more nefarious going on. I don't know. But if you just read multiple news reports that I read from Europe, including one English translation Italian paper, the raid was conducted according to Italian law enforcement. The raid was conducted because of these individuals at Link University abusing the tax system in Italy. Apparently, Link campus has a research and development section, and they apparently took tax credits. Tax credits based on the fact that they were claiming to be doing research and development which would in some way benefit the government of Italy. But it appears that they're not actually doing that, or at least the Italian government doesn't believe they're actually producing any R&D that would benefit the Italian government, but yet they're taking a tax credit for doing so. So they raided the place to get documents, and they're investigating these 14 people in relation to this tax issue. They say nothing in the article about Misfit, Spygate, the spying on the Trump campaign, the 2016 election, anything like that. So maybe Papagalopoulos knows something we don't know, but if he does, he's not saying it. But everything that I can tell from looking at half a dozen different articles from European papers, one from an Italian paper that they haven't transcribed to English, this appears to be a tax issue at Link campus. So who knows, what's going on here? But that's what this appears to be. Doesn't appear to be anything to do with Spygate. And of course, we know that Barr and Durham last summer were in Italy twice. Well, Durham was there twice. Barr was there once with Durham. And from the reports that were out in the Italian papers at the time, was that the second meeting did not go well. That the Italian government is essentially saying they don't have anything to do with Misfit. They weren't involved in any type of election operations in 2016. The government of Italy has no involvement. The government of Italy not involved with Misfit. Apparently they had some information on Misfit. They turned that over. but they deny having any role to play in what went down in 2016, the setup of Papadopoulos at Link campus, anything regarding Misfit. The Italian government totally avoiding any responsibility or taking credit or for having any responsibility for doing anything having to do with Spygate. And apparently that did not go over very well with Durham and Barr, who didn't believe that they were being, leveled with. Apparently there was, I wouldn't say shouting. I don't think they described it as shouting, but apparently some very heated disagreement between Barr and Durham and the Italian officials. Barr and Durham don't think that the Italians were being straight with them, and that's where it ended. And as far as we know, Barr and Durham have not been back to Italy. We've not had any reports that there's been anything happen between the U.S. and Italy regarding Spygate in the last year, since last summer. So I don't know if there's anything to this or not. As best I can tell, there's not. No question that the events that happened in Rome at Link University were a part of the Spygate plot. That's where the information, that's where Papadopoulos was introduced to Misfit. And then from that point, Misfit goes on to, strike up a relationship with Papadopoulos. And then shortly thereafter, he drops this information on Papadopoulos that the Russians have dirt on Hillary. And then allegedly, Papadopoulos shares that information with Alexander Down the Hatch Downer. And that's pretty much where it ends. I mean, there's not any evidence that I can find where any Italian officials are linked to Misfit other than Vincenzo Scotti introducing. He's a former official at that point, former government official, introduces, and he is part owner of Link University, Link campus. So, I don't know. There's some strange things that happened with the Prime Minister of Italy. They have this big hoopla at the Obama White House at the end of the Obama administration. The last formal dinner that they have at the Obama White House is a dinner to honor Conte, this Italian president, who was an Obama lover. Now he's gone, and we have a new prime minister who's supposed to be more of a Trump supporter. But as best I can tell, there's not any real cooperation from the government of Italy on the Spygate issue. I can't find it. So if anyone else can find it, I'd love to see it. But it appears to me that it's a deadlock. If Barr and Durham know something about what Italy was involved in, it's not been made public to us. It didn't, and nothing came out in the Inspector General's report that would suggest that. I think there's probably something going on here, but we just don't know. But we do know that the Italian government, as far as we can tell, even though this new president of Italy is more friendly to Trump, as far as we can tell, they're not providing any information nor taking responsibility for the government of Italy in an official capacity being involved in any way with the Spygate story. So that's where it is. I don't know what to think other than what's just being reported in the papers. It's an issue, it's a tax issue, not a Spygate issue. So we'll continue to watch the story, but I think that's pretty much where this is going to end. Now, we did have Lindsay, we do have Lindsey Graham talking about the fact that he's trying to get declassified this 40-page memo on the FBI's interview with Christopher Steele's primary dossier source, or referred to as usually as the subsource, Steele's primary subsource. Now, Lindsey Graham says his Senate investigators discovered this while they were requesting documents. It's a 40-page memo on the FBI's interview with Christopher Steele's primary dossier source. They don't say subsource, but I think they're referring to the subsource. Now, whoever this subsource is, this name still has never come out. For some reason, this person is being protected. I don't know why. Usually that would be because the person is connected to intelligence agencies, and they want to protect their identity because they're connected to intelligence agencies. For some reason, it's one of the there's several names that Horowitz would not disclose and have never been made public, and that would be one of them. So a lot of people want to know who was Steele's subsource. It continues to be a mystery. A lot of people taking a lot of guesses at it, but at this point we just don't know who that subsource is. But Lindsey Graham, when he's doing this interview with Fox, he says that the subsource was actually an employee of Christopher Steele. Now that's something totally different. Yeah, he's a subsource, but he's an employee. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means Steele was paying him. And when you're paying people, they'll make up a lot of things. They'll tell you anything you want to hear if you're paying them, especially if they know what you want to hear. So the credibility kind of goes down the tubes a bit when you find out that this subsource was not so much a subsource he was, but as Lindsey Graham is describing him from, and remember, Lindsey Graham has seen the 40-page memo. So he knows more than we know. And he's saying that he would actually describe the subsource as more of an employee of Christopher Steele than a subsource. Now, we know the FBI interviewed the subsource for 3 days back between January 21st and January 24th of 2017. He was interviewed again in March. But after the initial interview at the end of January, at that time, this is with Steele's subsource, or who Graham describes as an employee of Steele. At that time, subsource is saying, no, Steele's making most of that up. And what bit of it is somewhat true is completely just, it was barroom talk. There was no evidence of any of it being true. It was just stuff that we were talking about, some of it. And the rest of it's just made up by Steele himself, I guess. And so the question is, and the question Lindsey Graham likely wants to get down to is, once this interview was conducted, remember this interview was conducted by the senior intel analyst as described in the Horowitz report, which we now know, thanks to Paul Sperry, is a guy named Brian Alten, A-U-T-E-N. We just did kind of a deep dive on him, 3 videos ago. So we now know who Brian Alten is. He was the special intel analyst, and he did this interview with the subsource, along with Case Agent 1, which we now know is Stephen Soma. Stephen Soma and Brian Alten did the interview of Steele's subsource back in January 2017, again in March. But in the January interview, as he told him again in March, it was Steele's claims are bullshit. Most of it was complete bullshit, and what little of it was things that the subsource had related to Steele, they were not related to Steele as being evidence or facts. They were barroom conversation between the subsource and some other people. So the question that you want to get down to if you're Lindsey Graham is, okay, once Alten and Soma have this information and they create this 40-page memo, who did they give it to? Now, you have to assume it certainly had to go to, at the very least, Peter's been stroking us, because he was running the investigation. On the DOJ side, you would have had McCabe, because on the DOJ side, he was kind of running the investigation on the DOJ side. Strzok, McCabe, Page, then of course Priestep is Strzok's boss. He likely would have seen this come across his desk, this 40-page memo. So you have to wonder, who else knew? Certainly, it'd be nearly impossible to imagine that they do the interview with this subsource. He tells them it's mostly bullshit, and they don't share it with the guy running the investigation on the DOJ and the FBI side. I just think that's nearly impossible to believe. But if it is true, if it stopped at Peter's been stroking us and McCabe and they didn't say anything, well, they're on the hook, because that means that they knew, and that means that Peter's been stroking us, and Luce Lisa Page were both on the Mueller team. So they should have known day one when they were put on the Mueller team. Hey, guess what? Back in January, I read a memo, 40-page memo, with Steele's subsource. He says Steele's claims in the dossier are all bullshit. So that's what Lindsey Graham probably wants to get to the bottom of. Who read that memo? Who reviewed that memo? Who was told about the information in the memo? Who knew? Because certainly Brian Alton and Stephen Soma knew at the end of January that the dossier was bullshit. Who else knew? That is what you want to get to right here. Now, we keep hearing all these names. The person most often that we're told was the subsource number one was Milian. But I've been through this many, many times, and I'll do it again very quickly. Milian is not, first of all, he's not Russian-born. He's Belarus. He's from Belarus, not Russian. So, and he doesn't check off some of the other boxes. So, Milian is not the subsource. What Milian is the person that allegedly that Steele's subsource got information from. He was the source for Steele's subsource, his primary subsource. But when Milian has been questioned about it, he denies being any source. He says if he was a source, he was not aware of the fact that he was a source. He was not giving information with the understanding that he was acting as a source for information to pass information along. So if any information came from Milian, from someone who talked to Milian, Milian was not aware at the time when he was talking to somebody that information, things that he was talking about, were being given to an individual who we now call Steele's primary subsource. Milian was not aware that he was being used as a source. That is his position. That to his knowledge he was not a source, but if someone's claiming he was a source, then he was not aware that things he was saying were being used to give to Christopher Steele as some sort of evidence. So that's what Milian says. We also have the name Trubnikov. Now, Trubnikov would check most of the boxes. Steele did mention Trubnikov to Kathleen Kavalik, and she wrote it down. Trubnikov, source. Stefan Halper mentioned to Papagalopoulos in a conversation in the UK that he was tight with Trubnikov. We know that Halper invited Trubnikov to Cambridge 2 times in 2016 to give lectures. These guys all run in the same circles. Misfit, Downer, Halper, Steele. These guys all hang out around that Cambridge spy network sort of guys. They're all part of private intelligence firms. Hacklude, Orbis, probably others. So Trubnikov is a possibility. It is a possibility, but again, we don't know for sure. But he was actually a legitimate foreign Russian intelligence officer, head of Russian intelligence. So if he was giving false information, he would have known he was giving false information. He probably wouldn't have got it wrong. So that may be why they believe that there was fake Russia information. And they're suggesting maybe it was intentional that Trubnikov or someone was giving false information on behalf of the Russian government. Problem is, Trubnikov is now essentially an American citizen, has been in the U.S. for a very long time. I don't think that he's any longer in cahoots with the Russian government. He's got a lot of connections to Western intelligence now. So that remains a mystery. Of course, Deripaska's name would always come up. There was a relationship going on there. Deripaska wasn't really working as an employee of Christopher Steele. In fact, it would be the other way around. Christopher Steele was working on behalf of Deripaska to try to work out a deal with his lawyer, Mr. Waldman, who was speaking to Mark Warner on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and they were trying to get some sort of a deal going where if Steele wanted something from Deripaska, so what Steele was trying to get for Deripaska was to get Deripaska's entry into the U.S., which was being blocked, to get that lifted in exchange for something Steele wanted from Deripaska. And so there was something going on there, but Deripaska, we know that the FBI came to him and asked him to help them with this Trump-Russia thing, and he laughed at them. And Deripaska, he's, you know, I mean, he's a character. He's quite the character, but I would be surprised if he would be Steele's subsource. He's got too long of a history with the FBI. They weren't really in good shape with him. And if the FBI was, if Deripaska was the subsource, I think that the FBI would have dealt with him directly and they would have done something with him. And if he was cooperating, he wouldn't have cooperated with the FBI without getting something in return. And as best we can tell, he got nothing in return. I doubt whether it's Deripaska. I wouldn't be surprised if Deripaska, through his lawyer, gave Steele some information, but I don't believe that he is the subsource that we're looking at. There's another character named Sergei Skripal, Skripal. He also had been mentioned as a possible source for Steele, sometimes named as an employee of Steele, but he has vehemently denied having any role in Spygate or in any of the other things that he's supposedly involved in regarding Christopher Steele. The poisoning of that former Russian official over in the UK is what he's most often associated with, and he denies everything about everything. So you don't really hear his name ever pop up in Spygate. So I just don't know. I guess at this point, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, I suggested possibly Stefan Halper or one of these private intelligence people may have been. You know, that's a long shot. I'm definitely stretching there, but when you're at this point in the game, why not? With everything else, it's certainly possible. But it's not likely, but it's a possibility. But I think what is actually a greater possibility, as far as where I am at now, they won't release the name of this subsource. Eventually, I think we will find out, unless they're protecting him because he's an intelligence asset for not just the UK, but maybe the US, maybe Israelis or someone. But Lindsey Graham's describing this subsource as an employee. So I'm beginning to believe that because Milian is saying that, well, if the subsource is saying I said this stuff, he's lying. We know Christopher Steele's a liar. Lindsey Graham says this subsource is working as an employee for Steele. I can only conclude at this point that it's very likely that the subsource is lying. And when the subsource was interviewed by Brian Alton and Steve Asoma, he lied. And his information is false, which means the source of his information may also be false. Milian's saying, I wasn't a source for Steele's subsource. If I was, I didn't know it. Steele's subsource could be nothing more than a straw man that Steele is hiding behind. Steele's lying about everything, but rather than being able to say, okay, I was lying about everything, this is all information I'm getting, he creates this subsource, and now this person has been put into this position as a subsource. This subsource could be very likely, just like Steele, lying. But at this point, from the Horowitz report, we're given this information, we're told about this interview, and we're told what the subsource is telling people. Now, Lindsey Graham wants to release the 40-page memo, which is a memo which is by Alton and Soma, talking about what they learned from the subsource. At this point, I'm just at the position where I just don't know that we should believe the subsource. Why are we supposed to believe Steele's subsource? Just because he was interviewed by Horowitz, just because he was interviewed by Alton and Soma. Why are we supposed to believe that Steele's primary subsource is telling the truth? That's where I am on this. I'm not just going to accept that the subsource, that the FBI interviews as subsource, and this is what he said. Yeah, it's what he said. But why are we compelled to believe it? Everyone else is lying in this story. Are we supposed to believe suddenly that the subsource is the truth teller? He works for Steele. And Milian says, no, if the subsource is saying that I'm his source, then he's bullshit. I'm not his source. If I am, I didn't know it. And the stuff that you're telling me that I supposedly said and gave to the subsource, most of it's bullshit. I didn't say any of that. And what little is there that I may have talked about, it was not evidence. It was not intelligence. It was barroom talk. I think we're putting way, way too much emphasis on this subsource. That's what I think. I think it's leading us off the trail. I think following the subsource is like a distraction. Seems to me we ought to stay on the straight and narrow. Who was Steele working for? Not who was working for Steele. Steele's already been proven to be a liar. I would like to see the 40 pages. I don't know who's blocking it, whether it's the DOJ or whether it's the intelligence side of things. That would, of course, be the DNI, which is now, what's his name? Good guy. Ratcliffe. So is Ratcliffe blocking this, or is the DOJ blocking this? If the DOJ's blocking this, it's likely because Durham does not want this released right now for some reason. And maybe it's the same reason that they won't release the name of the subsource, is because maybe that's a key part of Durham's investigation and they don't want the name out there right now. So we don't know, but I expect we will find out in due course. Susan Rice. You know, there's a lot of liars in this Spygate story. We just talked about Steele. Of course, we know that Mr. Potato Head is a major liar. Comey is a liar. Clapper, obviously a big liar. Strzok, Page, all big liars. Lots of liars in this story. But I don't know that there's a bigger liar in the former Obama administration than Susan Rice. That woman is absolutely pathological in her lying. She just did an interview with the Washington Post Live, which is like the TV version of the Washington Post. She does an interview with the Washington Post Live where she says, quote, now they're asking her, the reporters asking her about the claims Trump is making that the Obama administration spied on his campaign. And Susan Rice says the following, quote, Trump is wrong when he accuses the Obama administration of spying on his campaign in 2016. Absolutely no, it did not happen. That is false. This is another lie to deflect from the president's the president's own very bizarre relationship with Russia, to distract from the much validated reality that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to benefit Donald Trump. Wow. Absolutely not. It did not happen. This is false. Spying on the Trump campaign. After all these investigations, after all this information has come out, the Attorney General said, yeah, spying did occur. Everyone knows spying occurred. I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is how blatant, in-your-face liars these people are. Even when these people are found totally with their hand in the cookie jar, they are found, at the scene of the crime with the gun in their hand and the corpse at their feet, they would still say, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. These people are never going to admit what they did. You know, her Benghazi lies were one thing, but this is something totally different. With all the evidence and information that's come out, that she could sit there with a straight face and say that the spying on the Trump campaign did not happen, and that Trump's lying. And of course, as you would expect, the Washington Post Live interviewer did not question her at all. Took exactly what she said, okay, good, and moved on. Did not question a single bit of it, despite all the evidence to the contrary. Again, this is why you have to bust these people. You have to get the evidence and you have to bust these people. Mr. Durham, they are never, ever, ever going to admit to their crimes. Never. Now, maybe you can get some mid-level guy like Klein Smith or someone like that you actually have some evidence against, and you can get them to flip on some people. But when you get up into the upper tier, into the Obama administration, like his National Security Advisor, Brennan Clapper, these guys, they are never, ever, ever going to talk or roll over or admit anything. They are going to lie all the way. Even when if they end up handcuffed and taken to prison, when they come out of prison, for the rest of their life, they will continue to lie. They will never, ever admit to what they did. That's why you got to bust their ass, Mr. Durham. These people are never going to come clean, and we need to set the record straight. When she was asked about unmasking Michael Flynn, which of course she did, she said that she was seeking information on the reason that the Prince of the United Arab Emirates was in New York meeting with the Trump campaign officials in 2016. Well, that may be half true. Maybe half true. What they were really interested in is what the Trump administration with Flynn was talking about with the UAE in regards to the vote that was going to be happening at the UN or wherever, National Security, wherever, Council, on the issue of settlements in Israel and the Palestinian issue. It was the fact that Trump was taking a complete opposite position on that, supporting Israel as opposed to the Obama administration, which was supporting the Palestinian side on that. And they were pissed off that Trump was going to be flipping that script on them, and they were trying to find anything that they could, and they were hoping to use the Logan Act or anything else to try to throw a wrench in the Trump campaign, and it had a lot to do with that issue. There were other things going on, but that was the thing that really ruffled Obama's feathers, and Susan Rice as well. It had to do with that vote at the UN. That's what they were really interested in. Yesterday we had Carrie Kupak, the Department of Justice spokesperson, essentially Bill Barr's spokesperson, on Fox. She was being pressed on when we can expect something from John Durham's investigation, and she said that it is their goal and that they expect to see a report by the end of the summer. But then she went on to say, because she was asked about a report, she went on to say that, by the way, this is a criminal investigation, not really about producing a report. It's a criminal investigation. However, she said, there is a story to be told, and the American people deserve a resolution. She said people need to know what was going on, and that she is pretty highly confident that there will be something coming out by the end of the summer. Well, my calendar says that would be September the 21st or 22nd would be the end of summer. I expect myself, and I believe this for quite some time, that I think his investigation is going to continue on after the election, especially if Trump's president. I think there's a lot more to go, but I think that there will be something dropping, some indictments, something happening around Labor Day. It may be the week before Labor Day, the week after. I don't think it will be the week of Labor Day. I mean, the holiday period. I don't think they'll drop it on the holiday period because it wouldn't get very much press. That would be the opposite of what they want. My guess is they'll either drop it right before, the week before, or the week after Labor Day holiday. That's what I think is going to come down. I don't think that they'll want to go much beyond that. If they get too close to the election, it will probably cause issues. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya.